today.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. This is our special show that we do every Friday on the impact of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. Once again, I want to remind everyone, if you're just getting back from break and you're just joining this conversation, if you live in unincorporated King County, there is an opportunity for you to apply for a grant for your small business. If you've missed the PPP, if you've missed all this stuff, that's who they're looking for. They're looking for anyone who may not have had grant assistance. These grants are up to $5,000. If you've had trouble making your rent, if it's been utilities, if you've just lost money during this time period, whatever it is, apply for the grant. And up to $5,000. And again, as John Taylor, the director, said, he made an executive decision. This grant ends at midnight. The opportunity to apply for this grant ends at midnight today. He has said on this show, you know what, Tony, for your listeners who aren't going to be able to do this for whatever reason, there may be obstacles or barriers. I'm going to give them until 5 o'clock if they will hand deliver this by 5 o'clock on Monday. So let's make sure that we get the word out about that in unincorporated King County, places like White Center and Skyway and Fall City and Fairfield, where they seem like they're in the city, but they're in unincorporated King County. So this opportunity is for you. Joining me on the program right now is the executive director of the WIAA, the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, Mr. Mick Hoffman. Mick, how you doing?
Great, Tony. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I'm sure that there's a lot of questions right now as folks hear about whether school will or will not open up, and whatever politics are involved in that. And but on the other hand, high school sports organizations are in the same boat, and we don't know, what's going to happen here. And actually, over the summer, a lot of times there's training going on, and you move into the fall season for the 2021 calendar, and we just don't know. We do know that we did make it to the state championships and got through that in basketball, and then spring season was essentially wiped out. And now we're wondering what's going to happen in the fall. And of course, there are a lot of variables here. And I've just kind of laid out a scenario, Mick, without directly going to you. But let's start and back up a little bit with last spring and what happened last spring.
Yeah, well, we were very fortunate to get through most of our winter championships, basketball being the last one. We lost solo ensemble and dance, but we did get through the other activities. And we were working with the Department of Health on a daily basis. They were really, really good to us, taking phone calls, texts, 6 a.m, 10 o'clock at night. And we got to the point where the governor shut down the schools. And at that point, there's no way we could continue to bring kids out for activities if it wasn't safe for them to be in school. So, it was honestly a heartbreaking day to knowing how many hearts you're breaking, especially for those seniors, that their senior year was lost. And so we're trying to find a way to avoid that moving forward.
Okay, and I am going to move forward, but I'm still there for a minute because I just want you to talk about that. You've got some folks, it's their senior year, and some of the other baseball, track and field. And again, we're talking activities, not just sports. You mentioned
Sure.
Band ensemble. Just kind of share with us the impact that had, because you hear about it, but there's a number of different ways that this impacted those youth, and kind of share with us, the stories, if you will, and just what that did to those seniors.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to get quite a bit of correspondence from students and so many different stories. And for a lot of them, they hadn't played in a varsity activity or been, lead in their solo ensemble, and all of a sudden that was just gone in a blink of an eye. I mean, for the most part, you look at March 1st, most of us were like, hey, what's this coronavirus thing? A lot of us didn't even know what COVID was. We just knew there was this flu thing going around. And 2 weeks later, what they'd worked for in some of their cases for multiple years to be the starting, pitcher on their fast pitch team, or to go get that 100 state championship that they maybe finished third or fourth last year, was gone. In for those kids, listening to them and reading their stories, I mean, it was heartbreaking. And we have a leadership program that we run called LEAP, and so on our website are some of their stories. We ask them to kind of collect their thoughts around that and share what kids are going through, so people really understood. Not only are they missing out on the chance to compete, and a lot of people say, well, you can go get a scholarship. You don't have to play high school baseball to go get a baseball scholarship. They'll find you another way. But it wasn't so much that, it's all the other things that kids get out of participation. And I mean, really, you think back, some of our greatest times were with our friends when we were 16, 17, 18 years old, doing something we love. And in this case, that for us is activities.
I am going to move forward here, Mick, but I'd like you to again expound on that. Folks may not think of it in this way, but let's talk about the importance of athletics and activities to the student curriculum and what that means. We know that academically that's important, but activities and athletics are also pretty important. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of research that, will show a student will attend as many as 21 more days in a 180-day school year if they're involved in activities. So one, they show up because it's important. Number two is there's a lot of research, and I can't cite you statistics off the top of my head on this, but just kind of the life choices that kids make around teen pregnancy, around juvenile crime, around other healthy lifestyle choices. When they're involved in activities with healthy adults, other kids, their time's occupied. And then the other piece is, and we see this playing out in our country all over the place right now, the soft skills, not just the hard skills, but the soft skills that kids learn in competition and from working with their peers and adults. And, we definitely could use a little more of that to make this place a better place for all of us. So. Yeah, there's our website and the NFHS website has a lot of research that you can fact check me on, but it definitely makes an impact. And we're hearing from superintendents all over the state, really advocating for us to offer some semblance of fall activities to keep kids connected to their education. Because first and foremost, we're education based, and our job is to keep kids, educate them on the soft skills, but also keep them educated or connected to their education in the classroom.
Yeah, and you made the point, but from my perspective, there's just an incredible amount of learning that goes on when understanding, the concept of teamwork and working together, and then again, the joy in accomplishing, working hard for your goals, and then understanding also how if things don't turn out the way you want them to, how to deal with that, and
Exactly.
And then the mentorship that's involved. So again, I'm just talking about what you just said. So
Yeah.
I'm going to move forward here, John. The information that I have as we begin to address how is this going to look says that the start of the fall season is going to be pushed back to September 5th for football and September 7th for all other sports. Is that correct?
Yeah, currently that's our plan.
Currently, and
you can ask.
that could potentially be a moving target based off of what happens with coronavirus and hotspots. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just look at how things have changed since that decision came out 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. This is incredibly fluid. And so we meet again this coming Tuesday to discuss the current situation and if we need to make any other adjustments. And we being the WIAA Executive Board.
Mm-hmm. And so when you say the fall season is pushed back, normally in particular for football, there is a period in August where there's practice going on, and for some of the other sports as well and activities. Does that mean that everything begins on the 5th for football, and the first day of practice, that all of that, and for the other sports on the 7th? Can you kind of explain what that means?
Yeah, that's the current plan. So football would have started August 19th and everything else would have started August 24th. So we figured we'd give it, 2.5 weeks time, because the key for anything to start, we're working with the governor's office and Department of Health. And for us to be able to offer what are considered low risk sports, the most opportune sports to be able to participate in, we have to be at a phase 3 in a county. Right. So if you're not in phase 3, we can't do cross country meets. We can't do swim meets. We can't do slow pitch. Golf, tennis, all those require phase 3 designation. And we have 22 counties, and in the Puget Sound area, almost all of us are in phase 2 or 1.5. So the idea was to push back the start dates to give counties a chance to get there. We're in a freeze now till July 28th. And so the extra 2 or 3 weeks might be critical to those being available.
Now, does this mean that there may be some staggering done in the various counties, depending on if they're hotspots, or again, is there a unilateral plan that this is the plan for the state of Washington, and what impacts Yakima, and what impacts Seattle, and what impacts Benton County? We're all on the same page here, or will you have to take a look at the various counties and districts?
Yeah, it's possible that some areas, the board made the decision back in June, and this has been supported in almost every conversation I've had with superintendent groups, that it would be worse to hold some students back from participation because all students aren't available. Again, that's not going to settle well in those areas where kids aren't able to participate. However, a lot of our fall sports are multi-season offerings. So golf and tennis, for example, can be played in the fall or the spring. That's up to a school district's discretion. Cross country, even though it's different, we still have long distance track in the spring. So there is opportunity in some sports. So we will have a calendar for the WIAA. What schools are willing to offer and support is going to be really a local decision. And the best example I could give you is, say in Seattle, if Seattle Public Schools is all online learning, are they going to be comfortable telling their community that their students can do cross country if it's available? Whereas in another county that maybe has had very low impact from COVID, they're in-person schools and they're ready to go. And so state tournaments would be adjusted accordingly. And so there's a lot of detail to work out. The ultimate goal our board is looking at is give participation where participation is possible.
Okay. Is this something that you are connecting with other activities associations nationally? And again, it's across the country. It's the same thing. Some places are hotspots. Some places are becoming hotspots. But are you communicating with other branches nationally? And is there an overall national plan, or is this a state-to-state process?
Yeah, it's a state to state, but I will tell you on the West Coast, there's 11 of us in considered sections 7 and 8. So from Alaska, Hawaii, Arizona, New Mexico, and then the Northwest, Pacific Northwest. And we meet about every 2 or 3 weeks just to talk about what people are going. So we meet as a group to do that. And then there's lots of conversations in the interim. And so everybody's on their own page, but we're definitely borrowing and stealing depending on our situation. So for example, what California is going through right now is very different than even what Washington's going through. Mm-hmm. And what Wyoming has is very different than what we have. So a one size fits all plan is not realistic, but there's definitely concepts that can be that transition from state to state. So Washington will have our own plan. We work very closely with Oregon, and we work very closely with Idaho because we have so much crossover in our play.
And Mick, if you're getting information from other states, under the current circumstances, it's not stealing that information, it's liberating that information.
There you go. I like that. That has more syllables, makes me sound a lot smarter. So thank you.
Again, my guest is Mick Hoffman, Executive Director for the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. We are talking about what high school sports might look like this fall. And just for review, can you talk to us about the activities and athletics that would normally start this fall, that would be ordinarily scheduled to begin this fall?
Sure. So we would have cross country, we'd have slow pitch softball, we'd have volleyball, football, girls soccer, and then the option for tennis and golf would be our typical fall offerings. I think I got them all. Okay. You're testing me, Tony. I haven't even been on the job a year, so I'm trying to do this from memory. But those would be our typical fall offerings. Mm-hmm. Girls swimming as well.
And girls swimming. So as of now, September 7th would be the kickoff date for everything except football, and that would be on September 5th, correct?
Right. Yep. They're required to have 12 preseason practices. The others are required to have 10.
Now, the other thing is, you mentioned we talked earlier about the spring and some youth that may not have participated at the varsity level, and we're looking forward to their senior year. Now we have a potentially very fluid start to our fall sports programs for parents who are concerned. And, hey, my kid may not be contacted by the football coach or the soccer coach because they may not have ever participated in this sport. How am I going to be aware of what's going on? Now, that's one thing. And then after you answer that question, I'm going to get into the more specifics because they'll probably be concerned about health and safety. But first, let's start with the parents who are saying, okay, well, I'm finding out this information for the first time. What can folks do to be kept aware for their students who are going to be attending school about what's going to be taking place so that they don't miss out?
Yeah, so probably the best way for most people is to follow our app. And so we have an app, it's WIAA Live. And any updates that we do from the state association will typically go out on the app first or on our website, WIAA.com. As far as school-specific information, most of the schools will be updating their websites on a regular basis. And so if they're going on their school websites or calling the offices, I know most of the schools are on vacation in July, but they'll be getting back sometime here towards the end of the month and start of August. So state information as far as like after the 21st, next Tuesday when our board meets, any updates will go out on our app and our website. The second piece would be connecting with their schools to find out what their schools, because it's foreseeable we could offer a sport or activity in the fall that a school district just is unable to provide because of specific logistical challenges in their district.
Okay. Check with your school. And I know folks might be saying right now, I've checked with my school. Nobody answers my call. Nobody returns my email. So we understand that. But check with your school. Download the app and don't be afraid to find out what's going on from the WIAA. Is that right?
Yep.
Once again, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio and our special every Friday broadcast of the impact of the coronavirus on South Seattle and surrounding communities. My guest is Mick Hoffman, Executive Director for the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I saved this for last because this is going to be the big one for a lot of those parents. What are you doing to ensure that if these sports do happen, that parents can be pretty comfortable with the fact that their kids are going to be healthy and safe?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say as a disclaimer is we can't guarantee that in this situation, right? So, I mean, we just have to be real. We have to be honest that with asymptomatic carriers and all that, it's hard to be 100%. We're seeing that play out in the college and pro setting right now. And they have unlimited funds for the most part and the best of the best working there daily. That being said, what we're doing is in our guidelines, which are on our website, we're asking them to do a pre-screening every day in the school. So they don't necessarily take a kid's temperature, and we definitely can't test every kid and get test results back. but they're asking, have you had a temperature? And my understanding is some schools are actually buying the thermometers that they can shoot the foreheads to see if there's a temp. So they're asking, have you been around anybody or have you experienced any of these symptoms? If that's the case, then they're sending them home, quarantining 14 days and doing that. The other piece is what our board is talking about, and that's where we're working. That's where the Department of Health is such a great ally in this, is that we're only going to offer what they approve. And the state of Washington, I know there's a lot of controversy in people's politics these days, but specifically in Washington with Inslee and the track that the state has taken, very conservative, but it's also allowing us to progress or at least freeze, where we're seeing in some other states, they've gone backwards very quickly as far as what they're able to do. And so the Department of Health is our guiding force through this as far as, what is prudent and the best opportunity to keep everybody healthy and safe. The last thing I would say, Tony, is for kids who are looking to participate, in Washington, we allow physicals to be good for 2 years. If those are expired, we are not going to extend those beyond that 2-year deadline. Some states do 1 year. We've agreed through our medical, and again, this isn't Mick Hoffman sitting on his couch making these decisions. We're working with the same doctors that are working with our pro sports and colleges. But we're not going to extend it beyond 2 years because we want to make sure students are healthy and able to fully participate when they come out. So that could be a little bit of will be a barrier in some cases for students being able to get in and get a sports physical when they're ready to compete. So that's probably the biggest challenge for some students getting ready for fall.
Okay, and will student athletes be required to wear cloth face coverings during the activity?
There could be some activity. So when we came out with our guidelines, the very next day is when the mask requirement came out.
Mm-hmm.
So Department of Health is reviewing any possible exceptions for athletics. At this point, we have not been given any. So the answer would be, yeah, they need to wear a mask. What does that look like in cross country? That could be more of a challenge. We used the baseball example earlier, or slow pitch softball in the fall. It could be that they could wear those in that sport. At a minimum, they could wear them on the bench where they can't physical distance. So we don't have total clarity on that, but the default is, yeah, you're going to need to wear a mask unless we are told differently by Department of Health.
And again, all of this is dependent on where we are at phasing. So what you're hoping for is that by the start of the school year, the entire state will be in phase 3 at least. Is that right?
Yeah, or at least a majority of it, because that will allow us to offer those low risk sports.
But if an area is doing well and is in phase 3, and another area has regressed and it is in phase 1, you will continue to allow the phase 3 district or county to participate in sports, correct?
Correct. Yep. And then if the other ones catch up, we may allow that in the spring. Would overlap with other sports, but our goal again is to maximize participation.
And I appreciate your honesty here, Mick, in talking about this. And look, we don't have an NBA bubble, so this is going to be kind of tough, and you're going to be, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mick, kind of participating at your own risk here. Will there need to be any documents signed? Will there be anything in place that says that if students participate, they cannot hold WIAA accountable for any medical expenses or something that might occur?
My guess is initially it starts at the school level, so that will be a school district decision.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really get directly involved with that level of basically exposure liability until we get to state events.
Okay.
So previous to that, it's really up to the schools and their leagues and their districts.
Okay, Mick, we're almost out of time here, and I've been firing these questions off at you. And I want to give you an opportunity for final words here. If there's something that you want to say to parents, supporters, students out there right now who are listening. And I will again remind everyone, if you're listening and you go, wow, this is great information, about 15 minutes after this program, it'll be up on our YouTube page and our Facebook, so you can watch and listen and get this information again. So Mick, I want to give you the chance for final words here.
Yeah, first of all, Tony, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and be able to help get information out to the general public. The second thing is I want your voice. The third thing is, our goal as we go through this is to give kids a chance to participate. We know how incredibly important. I would not be doing what I'm doing right now if it wasn't for the coaches and the opportunity to participate when I was a kid. And so we are going to do everything we can, but not at the expense of health and safety. And we will share the reasons why. If there's specific areas that have challenges or barriers, we want to help solve that. So getting the information out like this, specifically on the potential challenge of a physical, is very, very helpful to make sure we meet our goal of getting kids out and having some fun. They need to get back to some normalcy, whatever that looks like.
And you say there's something else coming out. Did you say Tuesday? More information coming out on
Yeah,
Tuesday?
yeah. We have a board meeting Tuesday, and we'll evaluate where we're at and what seems realistic to offer in the spring. And then we'll be providing alternative scheduling, what that looks like through the winter, for what's available in the fall and then what's available in the winter and spring. So we have lots of different options we're going to bring forward to our board, similar to what we did previously with this September start as opposed to an August start. So I'm going to guess we're going to give more detail coming out on the 22nd after our meeting.
Okay, well, hopefully you can shoot that information to us so that we can share it. And then maybe, Mick, if you can, let's maybe get back on the air here in August or something next month. And again, as we know, this is going to be a moving target, and see if we can't get another update and let folks know, and hopefully move into this as carefully as possible. But at the same time, I'm just putting it out there, Mick. It's physical activity, and these activities in athletics are pretty important also to the high school experience.
Absolutely. University of Wisconsin just came out with a study they did on the impact of mental health on high school age students during COVID. And it's pretty telling. It's a very small sample size, but that, in addition to the physical aspect, that's why we're here. We want to help our students become our leaders. So.
Well, I mentioned, Mick, that this was your first year, and you've been in a teaching and a principal and administrator in the Vancouver area for 27 years. I'm sure this wasn't the welcome to the WIAA executive director position that you were looking for, but thanks for being there, and thanks for what you're doing as we work through this. And remember that we're a resource for you to share information.
You bet, and I'm always willing to come on and help spread the word, even if it's topics that people are mad at me about. I'll still come face it, and we'll talk about it and make sure people understand why. It might help me understand what we need to do differently. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right, when we come back, we're going to be looking for your phone calls, 206-290-9685. That number is 206-290-U5, YOU5. We want to hear how the coronavirus is impacting you, if you have any comments about anything you've heard on our previous shows. And then later, Callie Knight will be joining us from King County. We're going to talk everything masks that you may want to know. We're also going to talk about testing locations. We're going to talk about potential quarantine options for those of you who cannot quarantine on our special Impacts of the Coronavirus show in South Seattle and surrounding communities. We'll be back after this.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not driving my sweet AMC Pacer through the car wash, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. You missed a spot.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station.
This is Cindy Bray, the host of Heartbeat Radio.
Ako po si Rolly Polintan.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time.
This is Paul Schneiderman today on the 73rd edition.
Hey, y'all, welcome to
Rainier
Traveler's
Avenue
Guide to
Radio.
Venus and Mars with Princess Robin.
Risha Fairy Von Mothers. You guys know me.
Dirty Harry.
Your home for information about the impact of the coronavirus.
Amongst many things that's difficult about this virus is that it prevents
it's been
people from
devastating.
gathering, so
They're really heartbreaking stories of people who have...
There isn't anyone that isn't impacted.
shutting our schools down, including all athletic programs.
Your first-hand accounts.
We got here just to test, and I found out that I was positive.
people who know me, I'm still the first person they know.
But it was almost like you were patient zero for South Seattle. Your stories of community coming together.
Partner very heavily with Tacoma Urban League, who is doing some amazing work in response.
We're doing things for small businesses. We're giving out loans for small businesses.
And so I think it's very important that we have leaders who feel the pressure.
I mean, I cannot tell you we're calling 20, 30, 40 members.
This crisis in our community, we've been working to address it.
Rainier Avenue Radio, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
DJ Dirty John.
Karen Z with Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hey, this is Sergio Cool.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We got you covered. Local impact, global presence.
Broadcast. Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world and our weekly coverage of the impact of the community. Continuation of our series. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us again here. And then again, now we are aware of the fact that we are, and more folks listening internationally at
1.1. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, wipe things down, clean up your space. When you cough and sneeze, do responsibly. If you feel you're getting ill, isolate at home and chill. No, you're not alone. Please pick up your phone and call 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Community Radio Station will provide you with more information. Say Rainier Avenue Radio. Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.